Greetings everybody that clicked on this video. In this video, I'm going to yap and ramble about why I think Wuthering Waves 2.4 update is the best update in Wuthering Waves history. 1.1, 1.3, 2.2, and 2.0 are amazing updates, but they are not as good as 2.4. So, in order to explain my reasoning why I think this way, I'm going to touch on the story, the exploration, the characters, the events, Septimont itself and exploring Septimont, and the after-story quests. So for the story, I'm just going to give a quick explanation of what happened in the 2.4 story, then we're going to move on to how beautiful Septimont's exploration is, the characterization of Lupa and Cartethia, and how we got more lore about Cartwheel, the events and how good they are, Septimont as a beautiful city, and the after-story quests. So let's get into the video. From the start of Septimont, you get to experience the beautiful intro, the beautiful visuals, and the fantastic music that they put into it. Then you get to see Cartethia break the incubator that's holding the Threnodian. You meet Lupa. You get to sign up with Lupa as a team to fight in the Great Aegon. You meet Wuthering, the new 4-star, which I'm honestly excited for because we haven't gotten a 4-star in a while. Then you get to fight in gladiatorial fights with Lupa against enemies. Then you get to experience and have good moments with Lupa, learning about her. Then you learn about Mia, a previous gladiator some odd decades ago in Septimont, and what happened to her and how she was treated. Then you fight in the final Aegon. Then you get taken back in time to the last Great Bloody Aegon where you fight in that. And then during that, you get to see and play as Cartethia fighting against a corrupted version of the Arsenosa. Then after that, you win the Great Aegon, and then you get to see one final scene of Part 1 where Cartethia confronts Cristoforo and derails his perfect play. And then after all that, we get introduced to the Part 2 of 2.4. where you meet Arsenosa again and she tells you to go to an area, but before that you get to have a talk with Lupa, and then you can confide in her about what's been happening, or you can hide the truth, which actually does change the dialogue later on in the story, which I've never seen in this gacha game before. After that, you open the area to the Sentinel Core, which then the Threnodian takes control of Lupa, and Lupa destroys it, freeing the Threnodian, and then the Threnodian fully takes over Lupa and spawns in Mia as her thrall, and then she tries to fight Rover, but since Rover is able to split frequencies, he's able to split the Threnodian from Lupa. And then immediately after that, Rover pulls out the playbook that Frolova gave him in the part 1 of 2.4, and he tells this is something only Lupa can do herself. So Lupa jumps into the storybook to regain her memories to find where the Threnodian is hidden in Septimont to stop the destruction of Septimont in the true timeline. When she goes into the book, she has another memory of when she died with Cartethia, but before Lupa died, Cartethia put her traces on her so that way Rover would know what happened when he arrived in Septimont. While this is all happening with these flashbacks and memories of Lupa, Lupa cannot remember her own name. But after these cutscenes happened, Lupa knows where she must go, and she must drain the water that's inside the city of Septimont to get access to the sewers, which is where the Threnodian is hiding. While in these sewers, Lupa discovers that the Fraxidus has been working with House Silva to cause chaos and perfect Cristoforo's playwright. Now, after these cutscenes with the Fraxidus and House Silva, you are treated to a cutscene of Mia being taunted by the Threnodian, and you learn that Cartethia and Mia are daughters of the Threnodian. And then you find out that Mia would rather drive her own sword through her heart than serve the Threnodian, and that's what she did. That is how she died, and that was her fate 60 or so odd years ago in Septimont. So, after all these cutscenes happen, Lupa takes an elevator down to be able to go confront the Threnodian. And while that, she walks and thinks to herself and has a lot of self-reflection and thoughts about everything that's happened, and she comes to the conclusion that she's not like that anymore. And then she decides to challenge the Threnodian in a direct fight in which she has to jump through a playwright book in order to chase it. And then Lupa witnesses the previous story of 2.2, and then Cartethia defying the Thernodian, or the Sentinel of Renacida in that cutscene that we all remember from 2.2. And then we also have another scene of Cartethia talking to Lupa as she was dying and telling her very vital information. Now, after these cutscenes happen, we see that the Thernodian has completely shifted Mia's corpse into this monster called Lady of the Sea. And then Lupa challenges the Lady of the Sea, or the Thernodian, to a fight. And you are treated to a fantastic boss fight with fantastic music. Now, after that fantastic fight, you are treated to a cutscene of Mia switching between her Lady of the Sea form and her regular form, fighting against Lupa. And then obviously Lupa wins, and it is a very beautiful moment when Lupa finally beats Mia, and then Lupa is finally able to put Mia to rest finally without the Thernodian interfering in their lives anymore. Now, after all this happens, you get to see Lupa jump out of the book as it's burning up, and then you get to see Lupa cry a little bit and jump and hug Cartethia and Rover in a final scene that is just amazingly written and just beautiful music throughout. And then immediately after that, this concludes the story because you just talk to Cartethia and Lupa about everything that's happened in the 2.4 story, and it wraps up beautifully. Now, there are a couple little after story quests where you talk with Wuthering, you get to witness Lupa being drunk off her ass, and you get to witness Cartethia seeing her adoptive parents, but her adoptive parents don't remember her because they never had any memories of her thanks to the Thernodian. And it overall is a very bittersweet after story for Cartethia. But this concludes the story segment, and I just want to say that this story for 2.4 is beautifully written, the music is perfect, the cutscenes are perfect, the fights are fantastic, everything about 2.4, there is really no negatives about the 2.4 story. It is the best story that they have done for Wuthering Waves up to this point. Now, we're going to talk about the exploration of Septimont. Septimont, in my opinion, has the best exploration of Renacida, and obviously it goes for the 1.0 areas, obviously. But exploring Septimont, getting it 100% was a joy to do on stream. Like, it did not drag on like the previous areas do. It was just so much fun going around, doing the dancer challenges, finding the music notes, getting all the residence caskets. It was just the best it's been, and I love how Septimont's all one big city with a few grass areas, but I do have to say that there are a few parts of the map that are empty, I won't lie, but that does not take away of how good the exploration of Septimont itself is. And I'm also going to just mention how beautiful Septimont is as a city. It is the best looking area we have gotten in Wuthering Waves, bar none. It is almost perfect. The lighting, the textures, all the new updates that they did for the textures of how the grass, the leaves, the water, it's all screams love and care that they've done for this update. The exploration in the city is fantastic. I highly recommend that you explore and 100% the Septimont area. Now, this is the part where I'm going to talk about the characters, about Lupa and Cartethia, because we don't know much about Wuthering, so I'm going to leave her out because I hope she shows up later, which they did hint at in the after story for Wuthering. But Lupa's characterization is fantastic. She is a gladiator that does not seem like she wants to be alone because she has been betrayed twice now that we know of, from her original partner that poisoned her in a resonator showcase, and how Silva betrayed her before we met her. So when we meet Lupa, she is pretty much alone without a teammate, and she immediately takes us in as a teammate, and we prove to her that we're not here to betray her, and she is super out there, and she is just fantastic. She's always insulting the enemies you're facing when you're playing as her, and it's just fantastic seeing a resonator like that, where she's confident like that, and it's just, her character writing is fantastic. So we get to learn a bit more about Cartethia in the after story, about that she can now actually taste things, because in 2.0 she wasn't able to because she was split in half, I think. And then now that we freed her from the tower and she reunited with her other half, her fleur-de-lis form, she is now able to freely travel, and she freely went over to Septimont to help out because she sensed something wrong, and she freely went over there without being forced to because she viewed it as the right thing, which Cartethia views herself as a good person, which I love that they built on her characterization a lot, because she went over there for no reason, because she just wanted to help, and it's fantastic. We did learn a bit more about dear old Cartethia, about how she has seen her parents with their new child, well, her adoptive parents, but she is very saddened about the fact that they do not remember her because their memories were taken away by the Thronodian. And then we also learn that Cartethia has been feeling the pull of the Thronodian again. So Rover comes up with the idea to send her to the Black Shores so she can get checked out by the Black Shores. Now I'm going to talk about the events in 2.4. Peaks of Prestige, Virtual Crisis, and Banners Never Fall are almost perfect, each one of them. Virtual Crisis is quick, fun, and can be challenging when you want it to be challenging. If you have all the modifiers on, it's fantastic. It is an example of how Kuro Games needs to be doing combat events. Virtual Crisis allows you to use trial characters, and you can just increase the modifiers to make it harder and harder if you want to, but it's kind of easy if you have a properly built team. They added a unique challenge where if you go on to one of the disaster trials with Cartethia, it creates a singularity, which makes the boss fight harder because you're fighting fleur-de-lis. So, the next event I'm going to talk about is Banners Never Fall. It is fantastic. I'm glad it's a permanent event. If you had not completed it yet, I highly recommend you go complete it now. It is so much fun. So the way Banners Never Fall works is, as you fight, you build up a glory level. The max glory level is 500. Every certain amount of glory levels, you get a buff. It increases your health, damage, defense, crit rate, crit damage, and so forth and so on. And there are 5 zones. Each zone gets harder and harder and harder, with the final 5th zone being Arsenosa. And there are 2 to 6 bosses per zone, with about 10 to 12 chests per zone. But when you complete all of the zones and you beat the bosses, you can individually track the chests, so you can just go grab them without trying to hunt them down. But the shitty thing is about the event, and really the only shitty thing about it, otherwise it's perfect, is the fact that when you talk to the vendor to finish the quest, the event goes away. You can't do it, but you can still get the chests. So if you want to repeatedly do the boss fights, you can just not talk to the guy and not turn it in, and just turn it in on the final day of the event. So the final event we're going to talk to about is Peaks of Prestige. It is so much fun as a card game. It clears Genshin Impact's TCG. Being able to see the echoes fight each other while watching it from the side is a fantastic idea. It's not boring, it doesn't drag on, and there is a mode called In This Challenge where you can just repeatedly fight harder enemies with 2 different difficulty settings during the event. And Peaks of Prestige, if I remember correctly, it is a permanent mode, so everybody in the future that comes to the game is going to be able to experience it, which is a fantastic thing, to be completely honest. So, that really goes over the events. Peaks of Prestige, Virtual Crisis, and Banners Never Fall should be the gold standard of how events go on in the future of this game. They are the best they've ever been, and I'm just so glad that Kuro Games is learning how to make the best events they can. So I'm just going to give a quick reiteration about why I think the way I think about 2.4 and how it clears everything else in Wuthering Waves. The story is fantastic. Lupa's characterization is fantastic. Lupa herself is fantastic. The music is fantastic. The boss fights are fantastic. It's the best they've been. The dialogue is not overwritten. It's short and quick. The entire story is like about maybe 5 hours max, and it just does not stay too long when it shouldn't be. The events are the gold standard of how events should be in the future. The exploration is fantastic. I think it's the best it's been in Wuthering Waves. Flying around Septimont is beautiful. The music itself of Septimont is beautiful. But they could add a few more things in Septimont itself on the barren areas around Septimont. But otherwise, this update for me is pretty much a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. And I'm hoping if you have made it this far, you might agree with me. But if you have, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I'll be uploading another video soon about NTE and the closed beta test, because I have done all the story content. I've used pretty much all of the characters, and I'm going to make a full review of the CB2, and I'm going to ask the question, is there any hope for Neverness to Everness in the future of gacha games? So, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe, share the video around, share my channel around. I've been switching over to gacha games because I enjoy them much better than playing War Thunder. So, as I said, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you liked the video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.